The Pittsburgh Steelers held running back Jaylen Warren out of their game against the Minnesota Vikings for precautionary reasons, head coach Mike Tomlin said. Warren, who was initially expected to play, did not feel right coming off the practice field on Saturday, and the team allowed him to go through a pre-game warm-up, but did not like what they saw. As a result, Warren was out. Jaylen was a pre-game decision. That's why we listed him as questionable. He worked out prior to the game. We just didn't feel good enough. We didn't want to put him in a uniform, and then he wouldn't be able to finish, and then you're working a guy short. So, we worked him out, and that's where we settled. Jaylen is a tough guy. He wanted to do it. I just thought it was prudent not to, Tomlin said. Warren's quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, thinks that the running back can be a feature back in the NFL, too. He has been the lead dog in the backfield so far in terms of touches, but was still taken off the field at inopportune times throughout the game. Jaylen's a great player, man. He's a great player, Rodgers said. That was an awesome catch and run. He brings a lot to the table. Might have to keep giving him more opportunities in the pass game. Every time he touches it, something good happens. Warren signed a 2-year extension with the Steelers this offseason, and rookie running back Caleb Johnson has not yet turned the corner. His kickoff return gaffe will not help his cause there either. So, the Steelers will keep the engine running through Warren, but for one game, it had to through Gainwell, who did a nice job in relief. The Pittsburgh Steelers have managed to backdoor their way to a 3-1 record so far on the 2025 season despite not looking particularly impressive on either side of the ball. Such is the hallmark of a Mike Tomlin-coached team, with the Steelers' most recent win coming overseas against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday from Ireland. After a red-hot start to the season against his former New York Jets teammates, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers' offense have cooled off considerably over the last few weeks. Still, sports media personality Colin Cowherd recently took to his show, FS1's The Herd, to relay why he isn't blaming Rodgers for the shortcomings. Here's why I'm going to defend Aaron Rodgers. He's asked on this team, he's Chris Paul. He's Steph Curry on this team. Aaron is Chris Paul, said Cowherd, per Herd with Colin Cowherd on X, formerly Twitter. Occasionally, go hit DK Metcalf for a back shoulder throw. I don't need Steph Curry. I don't need James Harden. That's not what I need you to do. He has the fewest air yards per attempt. He's not taking big swings down the field. Thus far, the 2025 Pittsburgh Steelers season is following a familiar script to previous iterations of the team, with the squad finding ways to churn out wins early on in the regular season before their lack of talent manifests in the first round of the playoffs with a blowout loss. The Steelers will hope there is a different ending to that story this year, but at the current juncture, there wouldn't appear to be many avenues of doing so. Rodgers, while effective at times this season, is no longer close to the Green Bay Packers MVP version of himself, and the defense has looked its age at times this year for the Steelers. Still, Mike Tomlin has a knack for getting the most out of his players, and it doesn't look like his non-losing season streak will be coming to an end this year. The Steelers now have a bye week before they next take the field on October 12th against the Cleveland Browns. Can the Steelers compete? Rostering gems was a top priority for Omar and his front office during this past offseason. The Pittsburgh Steelers entered 2025 with a Super Bowl or bust mentality, and every move made in free agency and the NFL draft reflected that urgency. Building a contender meant being aggressive, and Khan's group executed accordingly. They added veterans, secured needed depth, and walked away from the draft with young talent ready to push for roles. One of the lesser heralded, yet intriguing additions was safety Sebastian Castro, an undrafted rookie out of Iowa. He wasn't a household name entering camp, but his game left an impression on anyone paying close attention. Castro had a knack for being around the football, the kind of player who didn't just react, he anticipated. Those instincts are why he carved out a reputation in college, racking up 163 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 4 interceptions during his Hawkeyes career. That same ability carried over to the preseason, where Castro flashed enough to earn a spot on Pittsburgh's practice squad. For me, it was refreshing to see a player like him grind his way onto the radar. Every year, 1 or 2 undrafted guys stick, and Castro seemed like a candidate to eventually earn snaps on Sundays. He brought a certain juice to the field, an energy the Steelers have always valued in their defenders. Unfortunately, Pittsburgh won't be the team reaping those rewards. Earlier this week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers scooped up Castro, signing him to their active roster. The Pittsburgh Steelers can afford to let Sebastian Castro walk. It's one of those small gut punches you feel during a long NFL season. Losing a player you scouted, developed, and saw promise in isn't easy, even if he wasn't penciled in for a starting role. Still, let's be honest, the Steelers are positioned to weather this loss. Safety depth, once a concern, has turned into a strength. Deshaun Elliott's return to health is already paying dividends. In just one game back, his presence was felt. His physicality and communication helped stabilize the secondary. Alongside him, Chuck Clark and Jabril Peppers have carved out important roles, giving Pittsburgh a trio of proven veterans to lean on as the season grinds forward. That doesn't mean I'm happy to see Castro go. I genuinely enjoyed watching his growth over the past few months, and I think he's more than just a practice squad body. He has the instincts, effort, and athleticism to make it in the NFL. Sometimes, all a player needs is the right opportunity, and Tampa Bay is willing to give him that chance sooner rather than later. From a personal standpoint, I can't help but root for him. Sure, I'd prefer those highlight plays in black and gold, but football has a funny way of writing its own stories. If Castro turns into a reliable piece for the Buccaneers, I won't be surprised. The kid can play, and I believe his best days are still ahead of him. As for the Steelers, they'll keep pressing forward. The roster is built to compete right now, and losing one undrafted gem won't derail their mission. But it's worth remembering, sometimes the players who slip through the cracks end up reminding you just how valuable every roster spot truly is. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-1 heading into their bye week, but have still shown some serious chinks in their armor on both offense and defense. On offense, one of the biggest concerns is their talent at wide receiver outside of DK Metcalf, and if Pittsburgh wants to make a deep playoff run with Aaron Rodgers, they need to make a move before the trade deadline. Luckily for Pittsburgh, there are a couple elite names at wide receiver that could potentially be available, like Tyreek Hill, Jacoby Myers, Jerry Jeudy, and the guy this piece is centered around, Chris Olave. The New Orleans Saints are in the midst of a major rebuild, and at 0-4, there's a chance they could be sellers at the trade deadline. Here's why an Olave trade to the Steelers makes a ton of sense. Chris Olave proposed trade to the Saints. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a wide receiver room that consists of Ben Skowronek, Scotty Miller, Calvin Austin, and Roman Wilson, but none of this group has established themselves as an elite number 2 wide receiver. Calvin Austin is a fantastic deep ball receiver to threaten the opposing safeties, as is Ben Skowronek is one of the best blocking wide receivers, but there's been multiple instances of Rodgers targeting Scotty Miller or another receiver and them clearly lacking an extra step that a receiver the caliber of Chris Olave can add. Chris Olave's biggest problem has always been his health, as he's dealt with some serious concussions recently, but he has been productive this season with 26 receptions, 185 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Why the New Orleans Saints would trade Chris Olave? The Saints haven't built up their draft capital, but they have 3 guys in Alvin Kamara, Cameron Jordan, and Chris Olave that all have great trade value. A guy like Chris Olave could easily draw a 3rd-round pick and potentially even a 2nd-round pick if a team values him that highly. Something that is more likely is a 3rd and a 4th, and Pittsburgh should run to the podium if that were ever a possibility. Can the Steelers win the Super Bowl? This Steelers team is led by the names on defense like T.J. Watt, Nate Herbig, Cameron Hayward, Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Queen, and Peyton Wilson, among others. Despite these big names, the defense still has looked porous at times, but the biggest concern is going to be this offense. Rodgers has played very well this year, but they haven't gone up against a high-powered offense like the Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, or even the Kansas City Chiefs yet. While Mike Tomlin prides his team on being a hard-nosed football team, they're going to have to get more production out of their receiving game. Listen, I like their running game with Caleb Johnson, Kenneth Gainwell, and Jaylen Warren. This offense has been too reliant on the quick passing game, and they're going to need something to stretch their offense out. Chris Olave would fit like a glove, as he'll get a ton of one-on-one coverage because of DK Metcalf on the other side, and he's young enough to where this isn't just an all-in move like a Tyreek Hill trade would be.